All right, let's do this. You guys just want to get right into DBs? Let's get after it.
Let's get after some safeties. Or DBs, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
We are merging safeties and cornerbacks.
I got to go through my stuff and actually figure out which
Since that's what they're called in the NFL draft nowadays.
DBs,
Well, they've always been classified as DBs.
a.k.a. Deebs.
Well, Steve changed his ranking, so I'd have him for him.
Yeah, I changed my rankings, so nobody knows what they are.
But if you
I
want,
do
are you
know
going to
what
jump
it
into
was.
safeties first, Steve?
Yeah, we can. I didn't actually separate them. I
So
combined them.
let's
'cause
just
they
go over to
DBs.
utilization, just the first one overall, right? Brian Branch.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty easily for me. I
for
think
safeties?
Yeah.
I think in my opinion for safeties he is day one pro ready, going to make an impact because he has great awareness, he has a flexible lower body core, he's able to track the ball, he has very flexible hips to get up and around to see where the ball's coming from, and he makes contact with the player or with the ball at all times, and he doesn't get called for many flags. He's a very smart player throughout, and he can play all over the field, and he makes an
You got
impact
that card,
in
John?
the secondary.
No.
I
You don't
think
have Brian Branch's card?
I think he's
No,
a top.
that's-
I
that's me.
personally think this kid's a top 15 pick.
I actually
You
have
think
it.
Brian Branch is a top 15
Yeah,
pick?
he's top of his class for tackling as a safety too.
Thank you, Johnny, for doing the screen share.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, so
And
you like
the
you
dude's
like,
drive
There's
is
Brian
insane.
Branch
I mean,
right there for you.
Oh, all right.
The
There you
dude's
go.
drive
Say
is
screen share.
insane. I know, again, Alabama guy. Everybody hypes these guys up, but you know how much I hate just basing guys per school. But this guy, the film I watched on him, he's a beast. And so going on off of saying he's a beast is he just doesn't quit. He's always finding ways to improve his play and improve to helping his team all over.
You like
And-
this dude that much?
Yeah.
Okay. KJ, do you have anything to add to that?
Brian Branch is hands down probably the best defensive back coming out of this draft, depending on what your utilization is going to be.
Okay.
Because we talked about this the other day, how he's a great in the box kind of guy. My only issue with Brian Branch is he doesn't take risk. He's more conservative with what he does.
So
But when it comes to when you're talking man-to-man kind of guys, like if you need him to play in any type of position where you need him to be right on that guy's hip, I think he's capable of doing it with the best of them right now.
Okay, so all right, he's your one safety. Where is he at in your total DB rankings? Did you separate him out, chance?
yeah, I separated them.
Okay.
So he would technically be 2 if we were doing all up
2.
all
You
together.
have Gonzalez and then Branch.
Yeah, I do.
That's insane.
I love Brian Branch because which he doesn't like him taking risks. I like him, or which he doesn't. Yeah, which he doesn't like him taking
put him
risks.
in
I
left.
like him not taking risks because
I guess maybe
I don't
I'm
like
just
my safeties coming
I-
up because the problem is if they take a risk and they get beat, then it's just open field touchdown, and I don't want that. I understand, you got to take a risk sometimes, but if you have other guys on the field that are willing to do that, and you have a guy who's going to be your anchor in that secondary, I like that, and I think that's the team that's going to draft him.
Well, the problem with getting a guy in the top 15 is just an anchor and not a playmaker. That's the problem.
He's a playmaker to a point.
Well, he's not. That's exactly what he's not.
I would have to disagree.
He's not a
Brian Branch is
playmaker. He's a
too
guy who's phenomenal in coverage. He's a guy who's great at passes deflected. But when it comes to making the big play, he's not that guy.
But you're just saying
You're not that guy,
You're
pal.
just saying that because of risk, though. Just because you don't take
That's
risk,
right.
don't mean you're not a playmaker.
That's
I mean,
you're just not
correct.
flashy. You're not flashy.
Right, but
but
those guys go under the radar all the time.
So you like Branch that I can't.
But
I guess
he's going to produce. I mean, he's
did
gonna,
he will produce.
Did you watch Antonio Johnson?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And you didn't like Antonio Johnson.
It's close, man. Like I said, it's
So
close. If I have to
where
rank
would
it,
Antonio Johnson be? Like roughly.
4, technically,
Gosh,
in DB
dang.
rankings. If that's
I
just
guess
because I split them up, but if we're
maybe I'm a piece of shit for this one, but like
I like.
Brian Branch is like 12 for me, and
get-
Antonio
so-
Johnson's like
so
5.
what
I
did
like
you-
Antonio Johnson.
So what didn't you like about him?
So here,
Since you have him 12, that's
and I
obviously a
actually
lot lower than
have
all
Jordan
those.
Battle above Brian Branch when it comes to
I
safeties.
hated Battle.
I guess I think that's what's going to get me off, right? Is I like
Wow.
Whoa.
Whoa!
Fuck me.
So our consensus ranking prior to you switching your rankings
Yeah.
was Brian Branch, Antonio Johnson, and then Jartavius Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even watch him.
What?
And then Sidney Brown, then Jordan Battle.
Yeah, so
those were our
watch
top 5
Jartavius,
safeties.
bro?
Yeah, I watched and then watching a bunch of corners. So Brian Branch, right? So I gave him a bunch of props because I think he's a fantastic tackler. overall, he's a great.
I mean, that's
tackler.
that's one of his best things. But
Which, if I'm looking for a safety, that's what I want.
well, and riskiness, right? That was my argument about being risk averted. He's just not.
You know what's funny is I think he gets fooled in play action. That's what I watched. He's very susceptible to that. And his block shedding in open field is bad.
He's not good against the run.
He is good against the run when he plays in the box. He cannot shed blocks in open field.
Right.
So like if he's caught
one-on-one situations is not a good.
Not great, but if he's coming forward, he's okay.
Oh, right.
I think yes, and I think that when he goes when his number's called to blitz, he lollygags.
I don't disagree with this, but I think that's why he's a safety.
That's his
not a corner.
He's a liability in man coverage when he comes up and he plays like slot.
Right.
Right. So like instead of bringing in an actual corner, like they leave him on because they know he's a great tackler.
Yeah. Right.
I think he plays in the box really well though.
What is
Savage in the box.
Jimmy,
plays
I
very
completely
well
agree
in the
with your statement because that's why you're a safety and not a corner.
Because corners, most corners suck at block shedding too because they're smaller in size. Too.
Anybody that can block shed is usually a
There's not one of this coming out. There's like 3 coming out of this draft that are pretty big corners.
Pretty big, like size, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Jordan Battle. I have Battle right above Branch, and now that I look at it,
to me that's kind of crazy. And the reason why I think that's
and I have
crazy
Antonio Johnson way above both of them.
That's fine. I mean, but like you have both those guys out of your top 10 DBs. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, respectively, they are Battle is 10 and Branch is 11.
I mean, that's all right. Well, who do you? Okay. Well, how about this? Because we have the consensus ranking. Johnny already put it up. Why do you have Battle as your number 1 safety?
Battle's not. Antonio Johnson's my number
Okay.
one.
Why do you have Antonio Johnson as your number 1?
So
Because we both have him as 2, right? You have Antonio Johnson as 2 safety.
Yeah, and you said it was close for you.
Yeah.
So like, what I enjoyed is he was everywhere. This dude played everywhere. He was fluid enough to play safety, corner, and edge. The dude played edge too.
Who is this again?
Antonio
Johnson. He's 6'1", 198.
Texas A&M, I believe.
4'5", 240. He plays up on the line like a corner. He plays outside the DN and rushes, or he can drop out like an edge. I mean, he's a versatile player all around. He can play in the box like a linebacker. The thing that I didn't like, right? He goes for a big hit and he forgets form tackling at times. He can do both. But he's trying to showboat. He's trying to get that big play, that viral hit.
I like
The dude's
that.
6'2", almost 200 pounds.
And what I didn't like is he has a bad supporting cast on the
That's
defense.
smart,
Defense was
Johnny.
bad.
Yeah.
What?
That's smart.
So
What?
You took the camera off of me when I asked you that. Like, that's smart on that screen share. Sorry.
Wait, is that bad? Wait,
Well, no, I wanted him to do that because I'm trying to read.
he can play.
and he can run in man and cover. Like he hits harder than like he is. He's the guy I wanted safety. That's why I liked him more. I did not see that in Branch when I thought I was going to because of how much he's been touted.
I think that's because of Antonio Johnson's utilization. Like you said, he can play.
I think
anywhere
because the
almost.
defense was
Cornerback, safety.
was so bad, they had to utilize him. But he showed up when he did.
But the fact that you can use him as a corner or as safety, again, that's value.
Yeah.
Because you can put him here or there. It just depends on, do you want to play him in box? Do you want to play him as a nickel corner? It just depends where you want to play him.
Yeah, and to me, he showed up and everywhere. And
I think he plays his best when he plays in the box.
Johnson.
Yeah, I think he plays his best when he plays at the box.
I would say
Because
that
he's another guy who can just tackle,
when he's able to
create contact.
see in the backfield and like hunt.
Yeah.
He's very good. He's deadly, and I like that. I like that a lot. KJ, did you see anything different in Antonio Johnson?
No, my thing with Antonio Johnson was the fact that he is really good in like off the hips. Like he's quick out of his like cuts. So he can actually he'll look one way and can go the other way if he needs to.
Okay. Fluid hips.
Yeah,
okay.
He's faster at the hips than I think Brian Branch was. Both the guys are fast.
Jimmy,
Both guys are fast.
Yeah, both.
He's
All
gonna
three
put
of their
on
game
weight.
speeds are faster than their 40s, in my opinion.
So it's one of those, and then it's one of those situations. I actually would probably agree with you where Antonio Johnson is probably better at reading the ball. But at the same point, like I just think Brian Branch is a little more. It's one of those. It's that argument to where like Brian Branch himself is cleaner all around, whereas Antonio Johnson is probably a little more risky. So like that's why when it comes to a safety, I'll take a riskier safety over a non-risky safety because I expect my corners to do their job.
You know what's funny? Okay, so you say that, right? And I actually understand. And I think the way I evaluated him and everybody that I have looked at so far is I value versatility. So when I see that you can play different positions and excel, I grade you higher.
Right, but if I'm drafting Brian Branch, I'm drafting him as a safety. I'm not drafting him. He's the number one safety. Right, so your thought process with Antonio Johnson is that Antonio Johnson can be capable of playing a corner.
You know who Brian Branch kind of reminds me of? Who's that corner or that safety we have?
Didn't Ryan just say Derwin James the other day?
Yeah, that's not Derwin James. Harrison. Who was the safety we just had that we traded?
Ronnie Harrison?
Yeah, he reminds me of Ronnie Harrison a little bit.
He played, from the Jags, yeah.
He can hit hard. He plays in the box really well. That's Brian Branch to me. He sucks in coverage. He's gonna give up deep balls, but if he's on rundowns, he'll play in your box. And that's what I. That's,
Whoa! What?
See, here's the thing, Jimmy. I agree with what you're saying about a guy that's under 200 pounds isn't going to play in the box in the NFL.
You would be surprised
but
how many dudes are
in
under
today's
200
NFL,
pounds.
like I don't know if it's just the way workouts have done things to these kids coming into the NFL, but ligaments are stronger and lankier than they used to be.
Yeah.
So like guys are coming in the NFL that are playing very strong to where they were back in the day. Whereas if you saw a guy at 170, 180, you're like, that dude's a featherweight. Like he's going to struggle in the NFL. Nowadays, a lot of these guys coming in the NFL, man, that 180 plays like 200, plays like 195.
Yep.
So, but
it's crazy seeing these guys' weights.
But
I agreed with you, Jimmy, up until
But
I
you
actually watched
also have to understand, and Ryan brings this up all the time, and because Ryan's on the show, I'm going to say it today. It's one of those things that Ryan, if he was here, he'd say this. The NFL works in cycles, and what happens is guys go and get big wide receivers. So what they do is go get big cornerbacks. So, okay, well then these teams go to smaller wide receivers because bigger cornerbacks can't cover the quick, shifty wide receivers. So then teams go, okay, we're going to get quick and shifty cornerbacks. So then it goes cyclical. Yeah. So, and that's what Ryan would saying to me on the phone the other day. And I agree with what he's saying is you're always wanting to be one step ahead.
I think he actually put
And in order to do that, you have to make sure you have the players to play for those positions. So, like, if you are going to go get a guy that can play at corner at 195, is going up against a Tyreek Hill. Like, who cares? Like, Tyreek Hill's not chesting anybody off that line.
No, but
you're looking about that speed. He's going to cut you up and get you downfield.
Yeah.
But when you have like a Megatron, a Devontae Adams,
the Calvin Johnsons, the DK Metcalfs, like those big guys, you're going to need.
Calvin was a phenomenal route runner too.
Right. Calvin was he was
like
a tank.
T. Higgins. T. Higgins can run routes, but he does not separate well. So like he can fight through.
He's a contested catcher.
Yes.
So you guys are gonna call me crazy, but
why?
Calvin Johnson reminds me of T. Higgins and Tyreek Hill.
The other way around.
Separation.
Oh, you're saying Calvin Johnson is Tyreek and T
Higgins
together.
come like morphs because he creates separation. He's got the speed.
You know what's funny? I think you're backwards. I think Calvin Johnson had two kids. And he only gave one talent to one kid and one talent to the other kid.
Calvin Johnson ran a 4.440.
Gosh.
Yeah, no, Calvin Johnson, like, remember we were bringing you back to that ESPN show where they did all those measurables and those tests, and I told you Des Bryant has the quickest reaction time in the NFL.
Yeah.
They did that same thing with Calvin Johnson and the fact that his reach was the size of a 2-car garage.
Oh, my Lord.
Holy
So he'd stand in the center of a 2-car garage, and his reach was the size of a 2-car garage.
That's insane.
Like, no one...
His catch radius
was
just
absurd. It was absurd.
It was a third of the football.
I mean, have you seen a guy like Calvin Johnson come out those?
No. Well, so DK was probably the closest thing to that, but he can't run routes, right?
That's the size thing and the speed thing, though. He does not have... I don't think DK has nearly as
much ligament.
But what was the... So, back to Antonio Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Like, your argument for Antonio Johnson is that he's more versatile. He can play other parts of the field.
He can play other parts of the field
Branch,
successfully.
to you, is more of a strong safety, right?
Brian Branch is a box safety.
What's a box safety? That's not a position.
Ronnie Harrison. You're a run
Is
support
it a strong
safety
or free safety?
It's strong safety. He cannot play.
Well, I'm just saying.
He's not going to play in
I'm
coverage.
not just throwing out random terms like box safety.
Well, box safety. I don't think box safety is a random term.
It's a safety that can play in a box.
Oh, you know what I mean when I say. Well, okay, maybe the fans don't. So when
that's my argument.
So when I mean box safety, it is almost exclusively a player that can only play within the box on the line of scrimmage for the defense, right? So that includes the linemen and the linebackers. So they would play on the same plane as the linebackers. And I say that because he does not excel or play well at all in coverage. He is efficient and violent in the run game.
Right.
And that's where he's going to be utilized. That's why I compared him to Ronnie Harrison, because
Brian Branch.
Yes, Brian Branch.
Just making sure we stay on the same
Yeah.
page. You're good. All right. What else you got there? I mean, what do we?
I got nothing for Johnson. I mean, like I don't like that he gets lazy with tackling sometimes. You know, like he goes for the big hit and he X-nays the form tackling when he can do both if he just believed in himself a little bit. I think he has that level of talent, in my opinion.
Is there anything we didn't like about him?
Yeah, that was that.
Besides the tackling?
I mean, he had a bad supporting cast. The defense around him was bad.
Yeah, I mean,
But I can't really knock him.
I think he was the captain of that defense, and he put it on their.
He is the captain of the ship now?
Yeah.
He's the captain of the ship now.
Oh my!
Right.
I am the
You
captain.
should have put that up. John should have put that picture up.
Yeah, no.
That's funny.
I need to
Anyway,
get that in here.
Okay. So you just want to continue with safeties? We'll do
Yeah,
safeties first.
Let's get to those
All right,
five. Let's get
who's,
through those five guys.
Who's your
Jartavius.
second?
Oh, second is Antonio.
You have Antonio Johnson as your
Third is
second.
Jartavius.
We all have Antonio Johnson as our second. You have him as your first.
Okay.
So.
All right. So then third. Go to your third guy, Jartavius Martin.
Jartavius Martin.
I did not watch him, so please.
So
Yeah, this one's on you because I think Ryan also had Jartavius in that
So
area.
I have
could be
him
wrong.
as the second best tackler in this class with violent hands and speed. He's able to get up after the ball and contested catches. Has great man coverage and can play zone, but needs to polish up his zone coverage, in my opinion.
Okay.
Has good run defense, but I really don't care about that. The safety, you're playing zone, you're
So,
playing out.
When you
secondary.
say violent hands, what does that mean?
He constantly deflects the ball. He's always going up after the ball to make contact with it.
So I would
but
say-
he doesn't get called many.
So
for many
aggressive
flags.
hands.
Yeah,
So probably aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive. Sorry.
Violent to me I'm thinking penalty.
What's his size? Do you have his intangibles real quick?
His size.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if anybody had that. I do not. I asked because if you're going to say that he's really good in man coverage,
5'11", 194.
So he's
okay, so he's
a prototypical.
He's actually a corner size, which is funny.
But that's what I'm saying. So he has good transition from playing press to zone coverage. If the
do you think maybe he'll have an opportunity for like slot corner duties?
on the right team, yeah.
See, no.
But the
No,
problem
why?
with that
Because
is
he's not even a top 10 corner in this draft.
Really?
Safety.
Yeah.
Well,
No, but no.
I
his
asked specifically.
Oh,
for
you're
this.
saying as this corner.
I asked
I
specifically
said on
for
the
this.
correct team.
Yeah. Well,
So,
But I'm not going to draft a guy to go be out of position.
Well, but
we have this
but-
argument all the time.
But I'm saying is if you draft him as safety and one of your corners get hurt, you can play him as a corner. is what I'm
No,
You-
I'm
you
going
can
with my
say
depth
that with
chart.
everyone. as long as
I
it's the perfect
ask
team.
because if he is
saying.
that
Yes, Ryan,
good,
aggressive in coverage. Thank you.
if he is that good in man coverage, right? Because you can still outshine corners. So if you are better than some of these top corners, and you happen to play safety, but you can do this,
He's a free safety.
So
He's a free safety.
he's
I,
a free
well,
safety.
he is the free
Interesting.
safety
So-
because Brian Branch was
So
the
he'll
strong
typically
safety.
be deep on
He's
you.
a-
Or not Brian Branch.
Sidney Brown.
Sidney
Sidney
Brown
Brown.
was the strong safety.
That's right. That's why I said he's a free safety.
Right, and I personally have Sidney Brown in this spot at 3.
Okay.
Because I think
Mine's
the only
flipped.
reason Jartavius Martin looked as good as he did, it was one, he played on the team for 5 years. Okay.
Okay, so he's experienced and he's
I
older.
understand that.
And then 2, Sidney Brown looked very good this year and had better stats.
Okay.
I think they played well off each other. It's
100%. They're
It's hard to
complementary.
decipher who is the better guy.
They're complementary. I agree.
Exactly. I mean, it's you're splitting hairs.
But that could
But
be.
I don't disagree with you that Sidney Brown outshined him just a little bit.
Where do you think he's going to get drafted? What round?
Second round.
Okay.
I have him in the
Oh,
second
who?
round.
Jartavius Martin.
Jartavius. As a
Fourth.
safety.
Fourth.
Third,
Really?
fourth round.
Chipotle
You don't.
bet?
You don't.
Late third. Late third.
Chipotle bet. You hear to
Chipotle
hear.
bet?
You're not going to be
Ryan.
here. You're not going to be here.
Is that breaking news?
Oh, he's
You're not
gonna be here.
Don't worry.
breaking news. Adam the
He's
Insider.
going to get drafted the same time. He'll be drafted in the second round just like Hennon Hooker,
Oh, I
Xavier
might have to do
Hutchinson,
that day.
and
No.
What?
No,
Jartavius Martin.
they're actually saying that
up.
Hendon Hooker will be a late first.
I was saying that for a while. Everybody called me crazy.
Yeah, I might actually wear a polo.
I could see somebody
I might
going
actually look a
straight
little
back in to
professional.
go get him.
I
for the
have one
fifth
on.
year.
Give a polo.
So,
Yeah, you do.
what didn't you like about Jartavius?
Apparently everything.
Hips.
Oh.
He's really bad hips.
But if
he's
he's
not a shifty kind of guy.
But if he's good in coverage, do you
His
disagree?
brains are better than his athleticism, but again, that has to do with playing in a team for 5
So
years.
experience and higher football IQ.
Yes.
So if you've seen something more, you're gonna understand something more.
Like he's
That's
what
what
John
he's
Johnson
building.
had mentally. I'm not comparing his athletics.
He's Farmers Insurance.
He is why the Browns went and got John Johnson, because John Johnson showed that he could do the job because of his experience on a roster. So then we brought him over for his experience to help train Delpit, right?
Yeah.
That was the whole purpose.
That worked out real well.
It did work out well. The problem is
Grant
Delpit's just
Delpit's-
never healthy.
Grant Delpit's gonna be
but
better than
Delpit
John
is
Johnson.
hands down better.
He's off the team, isn't he?
Where did Delpit
Grant
get
Delpit.
drafted?
Second round.
No, he was a first round
He was-
pick.
That's right. They drafted him.
He was a late first.
He had his ACL.
LSU.
He didn't play his entire rookie season because
And I think he was
Wonderful secondary.
I think he was the
LSU
first
that's always
safety taken
injured.
out of that draft. I could be wrong.
I think so. He was the year after
He's not
they
even on the
drafted
team
Greedy.
anymore, is he?
Grant's on the team.
What are you
John
talking-
Johnson
you're
is not.
talking Greedy Williams.
Greedy, thank you.
Greedy's
Yeah.
gone. John Johnson's gone.
Yeah, Greedy went to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
That's what
Shit.
that's what I feel about Jartavius. Sidney Brown to me is the better guy, better tackler.
Okay.
He is a lot quicker when it comes to being in coverage. He also reads the play better. So I would take Sidney Brown over Jartavius, hands down. Do I think, like you said, Jartavius could work in the correct system? Yes, and I think he could work flawlessly because he's got the smarts.
Yes.
Now, do you
I
think
don't disagree with you.
if he came to a team like, let's just say Cleveland, because that's what we all know, right? So
Let's use a different team for Cleveland. We use Cleveland a lot.
Well, but
we
'cause that's
do
what
have
we
to
know.
get better, but we have to get better at that. And I
That's
agree
fine.
with you. We do got to get a little better with that than our knowledge outside
Yeah.
of Cleveland. So like when you're looking at other safeties, who else would you
Well, let's say the Ravens. Same
We do need
division.
to get better at
Let's
that,
say the
right?
Ravens.
We got to know other
Well, the
teams
Ravens
better.
secondary isn't good.
But they
That's what
were.
I'm saying. They were. Would he fit if they were to draft a Clark Phillips or Christian Gonzalez if they were to trade up?
I mean, so who are their corners right now? You got Marlon Humphrey, who is dog shit.
Let's say, Ryan, would you
But go-
like him on your
Well,
team?
what was your argument? What were you going to say? Because you were going to compare him to the Browns
Sorry.
for some reason.
No,
What was your
I just
reasoning?
wanted
What
to
was
see
your
like
reasoning?
where would he fit in with the current roster?
Yeah.
Where does he start?
Sidney Brown.
No,
You probably would
I was
have
going to
to-
go back to Jartavius.
Jartavius Martin?
Because I wanted to see because he's saying in the way he's describing him.
I like him. I mean,
and,
I don't think he fits on the
and
Browns.
his intangibles, his weight and his height. He
he would have to play as strong.
He's a heavier corner.
He says Ravens are set. They need a corner.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Raven.
Well, you got Humphrey.
You guys need a
and-
backup safety.
and
You
I-
need a
never
backup
have
safety.
too many secondaries.
But they just drafted that kid last year, their one safety,
Oh,
and then they let their
yeah.
other safety go. They need
Oh
a
yeah,
backup.
the kid out of Notre Dame who was
Yeah.
the top safety in the NFL, I think.
Yeah.
So at least according to PFF, I think. So I mean, that's pretty flipping good. Marcus Williams and Hamilton. Yeah, Kyle Hamilton. He's an animal. Yeah, when they drafted him, I was very upset because I know he's going to be a good player.
I had him over Sauce and people.
They need a third guy, Jimmy. I agree that with the injuries they have in their secondary and their receiver core, they have to have someone else in that situation, especially because they're so thin at corner. They might need a guy that can play corner and safety. They're going to need a guy like an Antonio Johnson.
Oh, how about that?
If that's what you think, I don't think that Antonio Johnson is
Stone.
that versatile, but.
All right, so
Where do you see him being drafted, Steve?
because I didn't watch Jartavius, so I'm trying to
Brandon
get
Stevens.
who the hell is that guy?
I don't know.
He's a practice squad guy. They picked him up off the street.
Oh, all right. He was selling cars. No,
Brian has great knowledge of football.
No, we
100%.
agree that you
Need a
need
corner.
corners. We don't
Okay.
disagree, but I'm saying you need a guy that could also play both.
Okay.
Because the way you guys have depth on injury.
Martin's gonna be a second round pick. Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy.
There you go. All right. Anyway, so you were talking about Sidney Brown. So you like Sidney Brown over Jartavius?
It's close for me, and like I said, all these safeties are really close. I like this
I
whole
told you
class.
why.
Yeah. And I was rehash that a little bit.
My
so that,
biggest thing is
You're good.
I
So
think
what
there's a
sets
reason
him-
why
what
he
sets
played
him-
strong safety is because he could use some work with his tackling. That's the biggest thing I saw. He kind of gets
Jartavius
loose.
or Sidney?
Sidney. He gets a little loose on the tackling. He doesn't seem to wrap up very well.
100%.
And that's why I have him just under Jartavius, because I think Jartavius is a well-polished tackler. But again, comes in, well, he's been there 5 years. So, you're going to develop that or you're just not going to be on the team anymore.
Okay. How old is Jartavius?
But-
Do we know how old he is by chance?
I'm not. But the thing with
22.
Sidney Brown versus Jartavius
He's been there 5 years.
is-
He's only 22. That's good.
the thing
Well, he'll be probably 23 by the draft.
Still.
So the thing for Sidney Brown that's a trade-off that I would be willing to take is, so his tackling could use some work, but he makes it up with his coverage.
Sidney Brown's also been there for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know
he
that.
makes up for his coverage. So
Yeah, he makes up the tackling for the coverage. So,
So
I think
if Brown is right, so you said Sidney Brown's the
So,
strong safety.
yeah, I would
So
flip
he's gonna
him
play up a little
personally.
more. Okay.
I would play Jartavius as a strong safety and Sidney as a free safety. But if I were to draft Sidney, I'd put him as a free safety.
I
Okay.
lied. I had that backwards.
Or yeah.
You
free
would let
safety.
Oh, no,
you
they
let
both
Sidney
didn't.
roam deep.
Yeah, I would let him run deep.
Okay.
So they've both been there for 5 years.
Because I think he can come up and make a play. And tackling is something you're going to work on in minicamp.
Yeah,
And all that.
Jartavius Martin just turned. He will be 19 or
I have,
23
so-
on Monday.
Oh,
He's another guy that goes up for contested catches.
Can I throw one thing at you?
Yeah.
Because you said that Jartavius Martin is a better tackler than Sidney Brown.
Yeah, and
But
from
the
the film that I
stat
watched.
line doesn't show it.
So I don't go off stat lines. I go off of film.
I understand.
I mean, that's the
But
opportunity and stuff too.
in
so.
5 years, and he's played majority of the games in 5 years, 320 total tackles. Whereas Jartavius Martin in 5 years, who has played similar game set, maybe the exact same, 225. So one guy's had 100 more tackles total.
Which I get, but like I said, I don't go off of
Yeah,
stats.
but
I don't like
if
going off of
Jartavius
stats
Martin's
because
playing
it's a,
But
it's
you
a
just
dull.
playing up.
told me he's a better tackler.
Well, but
Go
that's not,
watch the film.
that's not necessarily statistically based.
Like
If
I said,
Sidney
I don't
Brown-
go off of stats. I'm not a stat
Hold on.
monger. I
You
like what
just
you
said-
do on the film.
You just said Sidney Brown plays in the box.
Yes.
So he has way more opportunity for a tackle than playing as a free safety playing deep.
Right. I agree with that.
So that would be
that's
my
where
argument.
it makes up. That's what I'm saying. Go watch the
That's
film.
all.
You can't base. We're not Brandon here. You can't base everything
well,
off of stats.
I think the argument is also
Great.
like you watched Sidney Brown this year. Did you watch Sidney Brown last year? Like, because Sidney Brown played way better last year.
No, I didn't watch Sidney Brown
That-
last year.
Do you see what I'm
Okay.
saying?
I'm gonna base
that's
you.
what I'm
You
saying.
didn't. Well, he didn't go to the draft last year. I'm gonna base you what you did this year.
Well, that's
So-
not a very good argument because then we wouldn't even. There's certain people would never touch Jackson Smith and Jigba.
But again,
We'd
I'm
never
going off
touch
of
Jackson
15
Smith and
guys.
Jigba.
I don't
Never
have
would've drafted
a million
Jamar
hours.
Chase.
I mean, okay, so I see what you're saying because sometimes like I'll watch games from a year back to see what happened, but like realistically,
So don't get me wrong. Sidney Brown is, like I said, all these safeties except for Jordan Battle. I absolutely hated Jordan Battle. But Sidney is 4, but he's like all these guys, they're pretty much interchangeable for me. I mean, it just depends.
all right.
It
Speaking
depends
of
what
Jordan
team
Battle,
they fit.
let's go to your 5. Let's go to Jordan Battle. Why did you hate him so much?
I don't think he has flexible hips, but they get stiff at times when he's shifting between routes. And my biggest thing is he has issues tracking the ball out of the quarterback's hands and in the air. And I think my biggest thing with him is he gets real handsy, and he gets a lot of penalties.
This is a fun conversation to have.
What, being handsy?
No, what he's
Yeah, I
saying.
would say calm down.
No,
Herbert.
what he's saying, because here's my issue, right? I would almost agree with what you said. Outside of the fact that the defense is hands down better around him, so he is a little bit more risky, and it's noticeable sometimes.
I
on
would
film
make
when
the
you're
argument that
focusing on it.
Illinois secondary
Right.
But
was
again,
better
I
than
don't
Bama's
like risky
secondary this year.
guys, so I'd rank them a little bit lower because then
They
they're
have good
hurting your
corners.
team.
They're not top 10 corners.
I mean,
I mean, he had a lot of
corners.
penalties this year.
I would argue Illinois secondary is better than Bama's. The only reason I watch Bama's
I would have to
is
agree.
because I watched a lot of Bama and a lot of teams play Bama.
But then you come down to who they played, and it's all that. So
But
it's all,
still-
What was better, Bama's offense or defense this year?
I would say neither.
Hands down, their defense was won them more games. than
Yeah,
their
but I would
offense.
take.
That's sad
Their
because
check
Bryce
downs
Young's
and
probably going to go
Jahmyr
one
Gibbs
overall.
was their number one receiver.
So do you still
Was he
like Bryce
really?
Young?
Yeah.
That's why I like
What?
No,
You
I
still like Bryce Young?
hate Bryce Young.
If you go to like the Saints, I would love to have a
Colt
Bryce Young.
McCoy. Colt
They have
McCoy
Derek
is his
Carr.
ceiling.
I said if you go to a team like the Saints,
Like
I
the
would love to have
Saints,
a
okay.
Bryce.
John,
Okay.
what do you think of that statement?
If you go to a team like the Chargers, I'd like to have a Bryce. A check down running back in that
Again, a team
situation.
that is already built.
I
up
know
around
let
it,
them
I
finish.
completely agree with.
I know we're not talking quarterback, but they brought up Bryce Young. Bryce Young's
Let's
ceiling
play
is Colt McCoy.
You guys, so
We Kips.
Let's play take a
you
shot
guys are
wins.
gonna call me crazy, but I'll take Jordan Love over Bryce Young. I'll die on that.
Well,
hill.
we're on safeties. Get out of that. We'll have conversations more.
Oh, okay. Hold
once
on.
we get
Let's
closer.
finish safeties and then we'll get into hot takes. We need a button for that one too.
I mean, Jordan Battle was. I
Well,
think
that'll-
good.
that'll
I think
be
Jordan Battle was
before-
good though.
Yeah, so
I don't
like
know
said,
why
he's
he-
not bad, but I just don't like him because the risk he take, and I don't like risky safeties because you get beat, and
So-
then you're hurting your team.
so now I when I
Which
watched
is
Battle, right?
Funny that you said that.
I think he was too patient when trying to tackle the ball carrier. When someone is shiftier, right? When he's trying to break down, he was too patient.
What do you mean by shifty?
By shifting like agile,
Like
quicker.
loose at the hips?
You can put his foot in the ground.
Yes. You got very loose hips and very quick
so that's
feet.
my
That one's
downside
for
on
you,
Jordan
Jimmy.
Battle.
All right, Slancha. All right, that's a shot.
That's my thing with Jordan Battle is he has stiff hips. He
wait,
cannot
hold on.
go between covers well.
Oh, see
hold-
this guy.
Well, hold on. Let
got
Wheels
bushes in
talk.
there.
What'd you say, Wheels?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Hips,
talked over
hips,
you like a
hips.
rude asshole. So you don't like his hips, and that's fair. I think that he had trouble breaking down to make tackles. But I did note that he closes quickly though, and then when he does hit, he's very violent.
He hits
He's-
like a tank.
But
he
he's
hits like
going
a tank.
one way. He struggles breaking down, but if he hits you, you're
He
going
takes
to
good
hurt.
angles though. He takes good angles. I know he
And
doesn't normally
and
miss that
that's
tackle.
a
He
big,
takes good angles.
That's a big thing coming out of college. You need to know what angle to take because if you don't, like I said, you're just gonna get beat. Which I like that. I love guys who know how to take angles. Not casual football watchers know that, but there's a certain angle that corners and safeties take to get to a guy that they're behind.
Yeah, it's called pursuit. And when
Yeah.
you hear
Right.
the word pursuit,
Angle of
but
pursuit.
well,
No,
Angle
just
of
pursuit.
yeah.
when announcers typically they'll just say, "Oh, that was a good pursuit" or "pursuit angle." Yes,
They're not just gonna run behind the guy. They're gonna go at an angle to get ahead of him and be able to
Shakira.
tackle
Oh,
him.
you know
Hips
what's
don't
funny?
lie.
Shakira.
Oh, here we go. Look at
Hips
that.
are very important because it
Mommy,
gives
when
you
you
the
walk
flex.
like
It
that,
gives you for corners and safeties. All your movement is your lower body because you need to
You're starting to make me cry.
you need to flip on a dime of change of coverage, change of direction, turn around and go up there after a pass. That's why hips are so important for.
I thought you're
safeties
starting to
and
feel
corners.
it, boys.
But there's like other lines.
Anyway,
Goddamn, you guys really like talking over me.
right.
I'm
Shit.
so sorry. I like.
I'm
Shakira.
trying to go in depth here, and you're just yammering on.
We're actually talking under you.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're over him.
Fuck
Quite a
me.
bit.
All right, I didn't
You
hate
tried, Johnny.
Right.
battle watching him. He was like a rabid dog trying to get that bone, and he would
He's aggressive.
He would overcommit,
very
but he
aggressive.
overcommitted too much in the run game.
And that's
I did know he
again,
played pretty good in zone though.
He is not a man, though.
No,
How was he on the blitz? Because I don't know if I saw it.
So
that I don't know.
Oh,
He
so
plays in the box pretty well though. Oh,
he is he's pretty.
It'd be
good.
out of the segment, so keep.
He's pretty good on the blitz.
What were you gonna say?
I said,
Whoa,
speaking
I saw
of
Anthony,
man,
what?
I have meme.
oh, sweet
We
Jesus.
could do that.
I
in
like
But,
you mean well.
no, but
That's okay.
we'll do it after.
We finish safeties.
Yes.
I mean, so he hits like a tank.
Yeah, he.
And
hits
what I
hard.
mean like that is he uses his full body weight
Oh, yeah,
just to bruise a guy.
You're getting everything.
like he's throwing his body after him.
He's
but
giving you all that man
I'm
meat.
not a huge fan of corners and safeties doing that, but he's built for it. He can throw his body around.
Built for tough.
Yeah, he's built for it. And he's not going to
Hashtag
get
not about
hurt.
Hashtag built
Not
different.
going to pull a hammy. Not going to get a soft tissue injury. The dude, he throws
He's
his
gonna
body
break
around.
bones or nothing.
No,
Yeah.
he carries his weight well, and
Yes.
that's so. Where would you play him, free or strong?
I think he can play in the box well. I did
Okay.
note that, so I think he can play either.
Okay.
Because
There-
I know that he played zone pretty well.
There is a guy that we haven't talked about, right?
Yeah, okay, I'm
that-
down. I'm down. Let's talk about whoever for
That I think can make it in probably the number 2 safety on the board. But it's not
Oh.
like drafted wise, but like what he'll do in the next year.
He drives through his hips. Well done, Jimmy.
Jair
well done.
Brown,
Jair Brown. I don't wear.
Penn
Sorry.
State,
He's trying
Okay.
for his hips.
Yes, he does
or
drive
is
through.
it
his-
Pitt, Penn State, whatever one's the
Winnington.
Lion.
Penn State,
The Nittany Lions.
Yeah.
the titty line.
He is great in coverage, great catch-up speed, high points the ball very well. So contested, great against contested.
Okay. How tall is he?
Being contested.
5'11", 203.
No more drinks. For you.
The problem is
Oh, thank you, John.
his speed. It's 4.65.
Yeah, but if your game speed's faster.
I would think it is, but he's also, I think he's younger too, right?
Now you said that he catches up quick. So that agility that. What, John? How is he? Do you know?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say on the screen. share?
21. Right? No.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. All these safeties that are coming out around 22, 23 that we've been looking at, he's on the
Experience.
younger side of things.
He's on the younger side. So you're thinking maybe his ceiling's a little higher.
Well, so
High-
here's the thing: is that team played
I'm
very
on
physical
second
this year?
C4.
You remember? That team played very physical this year.
Yes, it did.
All of their secondary was physical. All of their linebackers were physical. That entire team
no.
was physical.
He's 23, my bad.
So,
Oh.
January
He might be.
25th,
He might be.
2020, or
But-
2000 was when he was born.
but
He's a senior.
the way he played was really good.
Okay.
And I really good is like an understatement.
Those are the guys that we notice, right? The guys that stand out. If you said you're like, listen, he played very well, you remember watching him play.
And he's a heavier guy, too, 203 for 5'11". I mean, you're a heavier
He's a
safety.
rock. He's a rock.
Okay.
But that, like I said, that entire defense probably weighed more than any other defense out there, just because of how thick that team was.
Penn State always drafts. I mean, you go look at Joey Porter, too,
don't
when we
draft.
talk about...
Yeah, we're going to talk about Joey Porter
When
here.
Penn State recruits, sorry.
All right, so
when they recruit, they always like guys
That's a guy I think we should look out for.
Honorable mention.
That's a day 2 guy.
Okay.
I think going probably late second.
Really?
Early
But
third.
you don't have Jartavius Martin going second.
No, I have him going
I need
mid
somebody
to
to
late
sit there
third,
on.
early
God
fourth.
damn. I bet Chipotle bet.
Mid
he
to late
goes
third,
second.
early
Chipotle
fourth.
bet.
You're not getting his Chipotle bet. You're not going to be here that day.
What a
Well, technically, if he's
dog.
here on the 3rd, he might be here that day.
Dog.
It's the
He'll
4th,
be
he won't be
second.
there.
All right, so if he gets drafted on day 2,
If he gets drafted on day 2.
Anyway, all right.